Time now for weather with Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher. It's time to say so long to August. Al, can you give us an idea as to how things are looking heading into September?
Well, Troy, we've had an interesting month of August, and of course we have September facing us as we now move into what is officially the fall period. And as we look at how temperatures across the state fare during the month of August, basically the eastern 3/4 of the state was between 1 and 2 degrees below normal, and a lot of that came here in this last week with this heavy overcast conditions and very cool conditions, especially over eastern Nebraska. The Panhandle actually is between 1 and 2 degrees above normal, as they've been under the influence of high pressure to a greater extent than we have here, and haven't had to deal with being under as much of the northwest flow aloft. In terms of precipitation, of course, widespread heavy precipitation from the northwest through south central, southeastern portions of the state, with the driest areas of the state essentially in east central and northeastern Nebraska. And that trend has been pretty persistent now for the better part of the last 4 to 5 weeks. So as we go forward, the biggest concern for us would be how is September going to handle out in terms of temperatures because of the planting delay issues that it's faced across the entire Midwest. And we're looking for that update this weekend from CPC to see how they are going to project September, as last month when they issued during the middle of the month, the northern plains, particularly the Dakotas, were shown as below normal for the month of September, with pretty much normal temperatures for the remaining areas outside of that region. So it'll be interesting to see if they expand that cool air area or they basically shrink it away. And my bet is that it'll be expanded a little bit toward the east and possibly toward the south to incorporate more of the upper Mississippi River Valley region. But more importantly, in our region, with the first official football game of the season, we're dealing with that exiting system that moved through the southeastern portion of the state over during the overnight hours, and we're left with that cloud cover as a surface low still remains basically in southeastern Colorado or southeastern Wyoming, and we're still seeing some of that thunderstorm activity that passed through the state pushing off to the south of us. So in Lincoln, we're probably looking at some off and again light drizzle activity during the game with clearing toward the end of the game, but by tomorrow we see low starting to stack up to the west of us. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of moisture to work with as most of that frontal boundary sags to our south. And of course, here comes Hurricane Dorian that is supposed to make landfall as we get into Labor Day. High pressure starts to build back into the region on Monday, and this looks like a fairly nice day outside eastern Nebraska as we see this low pressure at the surface in southeastern South Dakota is going to slip right down the Missouri River Valley, so giving it a chance of shower activity in extreme eastern Nebraska in the afternoon. But overall, we're going to see temperatures. They're going to be fairly nice for Labor Day. And then we see this system kind of flattening out of and then as we see low pressures, they're going to move across this zonal flow. We may induce some scattered thunderstorm activity. Most of the first batch will remain up in the Great Lakes as we see the hurricane coming into Florida. And then on Wednesday, we get a little wave moving across the Dakotas that should generate some moisture, particularly across the northern part of the state as we see a low pressure system trying to develop in west central Kansas. That feed of moisture and the interaction of that jet stream looks like it's going to lay out a foundation of precipitation with much more scattered precipitation to the south of it. On Thursday, the ridge builds even farther to the north, and we are probably going to see some 90s out in western Nebraska, mid to upper 80s in eastern Nebraska as we get a southerly fletch around this high pressure over Arkansas, bringing up some moisture into our region and warmer temperatures. But the major convergence of that moisture will be across southern Minnesota, northern Iowa. And then we see this trough trying to dig into the southwest. This means that we're probably going to start to see systems eject out, and that means that our precipitation chances are likely to increase as we get past next weekend. Low pressure developing in the Dakotas. Here's that moisture associated with that trough in the western portions of the United States. That will start to filter itself out as we get into the first full week of September. And as we go even farther, we look out from next Thursday to the following Tuesday, very cold conditions over the upper Midwest. Looks like eastern Nebraska will be on the eastern or western periphery of that. And in terms of precipitation, we're looking at a heavier precipitation pattern, especially with that southwest flow aloft. So Troy, overall, looks like precipitation will be rainy this weekend, particularly as we go through this morning, clearing, and then we'll see reaffirming batches of precipitation as we go into the middle and later part of next week.